The air was still, that kind of crisp, almost painful quiet you only get on a mountain lake in late September, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could actually breathe. I was standing on the dock of my new cabin, the Pine Knot, clutching a box of kitchen essentials, spatulas, wine opener, the important stuff, when the silence absolutely shattered. It wasn't the sound of a speedboat or a logging truck. It was the unmistakable, gut-punching wail of police sirens echoing off the water. Getting louder, closer, too close, I froze, watching the dust cloud approach the end of the long dirt lane leading to my property. 2 county cruisers, lights flashing a furious, silent red and blue, skidded to a stop right next to my U-Haul truck. Now I'd just closed on this cabin, inherited from my eccentric Uncle Finn, and I was deep in the woods, hours from the nearest highway, so I had absolutely no idea who was in trouble. Until I saw her. She came storming down the lane, marching like a pink drill sergeant in a visor so bright it looked like it was powered by a small nuclear reactor. This woman, who I'd soon come to know as Priscilla Thorne, self-appointed empress of the Crestwood Cove's Homeowners Association, was waving a clipboard like a royal scepter, her face set in a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. Behind her, a curious pajama-clad audience of neighbors started to gather, their morning coffee momentarily forgotten, hungry for drama. "There he is!" she shrieked, her voice cutting through the morning air, stabbing a magenta manicured finger directly at my chest. "He is trespassing on private land. He's been here since before dawn, disturbing the peace, and he's clearly in violation of at least 22 HOA codes. Arrest him immediately." The 2 officers exchanged a glance. The older one, Sergeant Miller, with eyes that held the tired wisdom of dealing with 1,000 Priscilla Thornes, and his partner, a rookie who was visibly trying to swallow a laugh. Sergeant Miller sighed, adjusting his belt. "Ma'am," he said, his tone flat and utterly without emotion. "Can you explain what exactly this gentleman is doing to trespass on his own land?" Priscilla inflated like a pink pufferfish, planting her hands on her hips, her cheap tracksuit straining at the seams. "This man is illegally occupying this structure. He has no authorization from the board, no permits for the dock, and he certainly hasn't paid the initial community assessment." She flipped open her clipboard with a dramatic flourish, like she was presenting the Gettysburg Address. I slowly set my box down, the one marked "Fragile Wine Glasses," and pulled out my phone. "Officer," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "My name is Daniel Hayes. I own this property. I closed on it 6 days ago. It was left to me by my late Uncle Finn." I held up the digital deed, the county seal a stark contrast to the absurdity of the scene. Priscilla's face, already flushed pink from exertion, deepened to a dangerous shade of puce. "That's impossible," she barked, her voice cracking. "Every single parcel on this side of Lake Aurora falls under the Crestwood Coves Association. I screen all new residents, and this man never applied. He is not vetted." Sergeant Miller took my phone, scrolled through the documents, then handed it back, his expression unwavering. He turned to Priscilla. "Ma'am, the man has a clean deed. He is the lawful owner of this cabin and the land it sits on. Unless you can provide evidence of a crime, which, by the way, disturbing the peace at 7 a.m. while moving is not, we have to go. But his moving truck is blocking the scenic easement." "He hasn't paid the quarterly dues," she shrilled, her voice escalating. The younger officer, bless his soul, stepped forward and asked the fatal question. "Ma'am, is his property actually part of your HOA, or is it just nearby?" Priscilla didn't even hesitate. "Of course it is. The covenants extend 1.5 miles around the water's edge." I couldn't help myself. I felt this slow, quiet heat start to rise in my chest, a feeling Uncle Finn, bless his rebellious heart, would have been proud of. "Actually, no, Priscilla," I said, using her name deliberately. "My Uncle Finn built the Pine Knot in 1958. Your lovely HOA wasn't founded until 1985. We were never, ever part of your jurisdiction. Uncle Finn made sure of it." Her rhinestone-studded sunglasses narrowed into slits that could cut glass. "We shall see about that, Mr. Hayes. Nobody makes a fool of Priscilla Thorne, nobody." She spun on her hot pink heel, her sneakers squeaking a furious little tune on the gravel. The police left shortly after, the older cop giving me a nod and a muttered, "Good luck, you're gonna need it." But Priscilla didn't leave. She just relocated. She parked herself right at the edge of my property line, setting up a little folding chair, a card table, and a thermos. And then she pulled out the most enormous, ridiculously long telephoto lens camera I have ever seen, the kind you use for photographing endangered wildlife in the Arctic, not a guy unpacking his kitchen. She started snapping. Snap, 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 of my truck, of my boxes, of the half-eaten turkey sandwich I'd left on the porch railing while talking to the police. "That," she announced loudly, scribbling furiously on her clipboard, "is improperly stored food. Health code violation, attracting vermin and potentially dangerous wildlife." I looked from her to the sandwich. "Priscilla, it's a turkey sandwich." She sniffed, didn't even look up. "That's President Thorne to you. And that, Mr. Hayes, is another violation. Failure to address HOA leadership with proper titles. $50 fine." For the next 3 days, Priscilla became a one-woman wrecking ball aimed squarely at my sanity. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, she appeared with a new list of increasingly absurd infractions, all written in a font that looked suspiciously like Comic Sans, decorated with dreadful clip art. My newly repaired dock, which Uncle Finn had made me promise to keep perfect, was 2 inches too long, costing $900. My plain gray trash cans were the wrong shade of communal gray, an alleged $600 fine. On day 3, she presented me with a bill for $2,700. "Carol, I told you," I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. "I am not part of your HOA. These fines are meaningless pieces of paper." Her laugh was rusty, sharp, and entirely condescending. "Oh, you sweet summer child. The Crestwood Coves governs the entire waterfront. Your uncle may have played the rebel, but I've been president for 6 years. Things have changed. She wasn't wrong." Things had changed, just not in the way she imagined. That night, after the last of my boxes were stacked, I went to work. I wasn't going to just let her bully me out of the place Uncle Finn had loved. The county clerk's office had amazing digital archives. I dug through property deeds, historical surveys, and, most importantly, the original charter for the Crestwood Coves HOA. And what I found made my jaw drop, then made me cackle out loud. Not only was the pine knot explicitly excluded from their jurisdiction, a fact she knew, but their entire little kingdom was built on a foundation of sand. Their private beach? State-protected shoreline. Their massive concrete boat launch? Built illegally on federally designated wetlands. Their scenic lakeside heritage trail? It crossed 3 separate, privately owned plots they didn't have easements for. And then, the moment the universe handed me the keys to the castle, a series of internal HOA email chains, dating back 3 years between Priscilla and the rest of her cronies. The subject lines alone were incredible, but the content was gold. A meticulously laid-out plan to expand their HOA territory by intimidating non-members into voluntary compliance. The strategy, codified by Priscilla herself, was to establish dominance over the non-compliant shoreline properties through persistent enforcement action. The original email was titled, Operation Total Lake Control. By sunrise, I had my ammunition, a neat, 3-ring binder of irrefutable public record evidence. The State Environmental Protection Agency was very interested in the wetlands violation. The county commissioner's office was curious about the illegal structures on public land. The war Priscilla had started was about to turn into a full-scale federal investigation.